Welcome to this video showcasing eTapestry Eventbrite integration with Zapier. This video is going to be a case study on an organization that's actually using this integration to automate their day-to-day with eTapestry. I appreciate your interest in this topic and thanks for watching. My name is Jeff Hegwood. I'm an eTapestry software consultant at Sidekick Solutions. Sidekick Solutions is a Blackbaud consulting and integration partner, and we specialize in eTapestry, specifically integrations. We help new and existing eTapestry users integrate eTapestry with the way they work day to day. Now, today's an exciting topic because we're going to explore eTapestry and Eventbrite integration. What's particularly exciting about this video is that we're going to walk through a real-life solution that's deployed at a real organization. The organization's name is Generosity Feeds. In partnership with Generosity Feeds, we were able to configure and deploy an integration system that automates the entry of Eventbrite registrations into eTapestry as journal contacts. We're also going to touch on how we expanded their Eventbrite integration to also connect Mailchimp. That's right, an actual two-app integration with eTapestry. So today we're going to cover the data management challenge that Generosity Feeds faced with Eventbrite and eTapestry, specifically as they dealt with these two systems in isolation and how they needed to bring them together. We're going to talk about the automated solution that we configured to address those challenges and what tools we used and the process and steps that we followed. And we're also going to talk about the end outcomes of the integration, how it's working today, what type of maintenance and requirements are needed in order to facilitate the integration day in and day out. So the question we often get asked is, why do we make videos like this? Why do we talk about case studies? Why do we present solutions that might help eTapestry users? And the bottom line is that we often get asked how integrations work in real settings. So we can talk conceptually about how integrations work, but most people want to know how real organizations use them day to day. So to demonstrate how an organization can actually use an integration, how it's designed, how it's customized, how we can model it to a unique workflow of a particular organization, that's why we're doing this video today as a case study. And I look forward to sharing how Generosity Feeds is using Eventbrite and eTapestry integration, because it's a really great example of data entry automation, a custom mapping solution, and integration across multiple applications. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first, a little bit on Generosity Feeds. So Generosity Feeds is a national nonprofit that's focused on making a local impact in child food insecurity. What's unique about Generosity Feeds is that they come alongside community groups to plan and lead meal packing events in their community. What's astounding is that in 2019 alone, over 21,000 volunteers participated in 93 events across 25 states, creating over 1 million meals, and that fed 50,000 children. On a personal note, I've worked with, and our team's worked with Generosity Feeds for a couple of years now, and their growth, the growth pattern that they've gone through is truly astounding. And it's really been a pleasure and an honor to work with them. We've watched them successfully scale food operations nationally, and I can tell you with all honesty that they really know how to throw a volunteer-driven event. Now, prior to integration, Generosity Feeds had come to us with a few primary complications with the way that they were operating events. The first is that they were running regular imports, and those were becoming unmanageable. They were familiar with integrations via the API, but weren't really sure how to make the next step with Eventbrite. And the bottom line is that although they were scaling their operations related to events, They really didn't have any technology backing up the automation of those events, and they just needed some extra heft. So that's where integrations came to play. The key point is that they had a playbook for running local event operations, but at the end of the day, there just wasn't enough core technology to support the volume of data that they were dealing with. And that's where we came to some of these roadblocks and these frictions. They were doing more than one import per month into eTapestry. Event segmentation, as they grew the number of events that they were hosting per month, was becoming more of a difficulty. And they really needed a full view of the constituents' participation with generosity feeds in eTapestry to both reference a constituent's engagement as they searched for constituents in the system, and also from a reporting standpoint. So this presented an opportunity. Could we take information from Eventbrite, put it into eTapestry, and supplement their email marketing efforts in Mailchimp? Now, our priority was real-time data integration. We wanted to get this data into eTapestry quickly. We also knew that we needed multi-app integration. You'll see that we're dealing with 3 applications here in this simplistic workflow. And because we needed high volume management, custom data mapping and coding for multiple events, and real-time sync, we decided to go with a platform in Zapier as our integration solution. So you may be wondering, what is Zapier? Why Zapier? You may not have heard of it before, so let's do a brief introduction on Zapier. So our team at Sidekick Solutions developed an eTapestry module. We call that module the eTapestry API wrapper. And what we did is we connected that wrapper to Zapier, which connects with 1,500 other applications. Now that's a pretty powerful statement because it gives us the ability to connect many integrations to your eTapestry database. For generosity feeds, that meant that we could integrate Eventbrite, eTapestry, and Mailchimp with a single integration platform. That meant we could manage everything under one roof. Additionally, they needed integrations that they could manage without lines of code, overly complex logic, or even basic API functionality. We needed the ability to visualize a workflow without getting into the raw, granular details of that integration. We knew that after the integration was developed, when we needed to step away as a consultant partner, that they could actually sustain that integration long term. Now, as we showcase generosity feeds as solution in the following slides here, you'll notice that there's a few items, and we'll talk a little bit about this, that require periodic maintenance or monitoring. These are items that either could not be captured in the technical configuration of the integration, or we excluded them for other options, either manual management, a more hands-on approach, or for future development. As we'll talk about near the end of today's video, integrations are a bit of a moving target. They always need some level of refinement and maintenance in order to operate, and this solution is no exception. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this solution from end to end. Now, when we dove into the integration and really looked at how Generosity Feeds was operating, we noticed a few core components that we needed to overcome in design of the integration. The first is that we needed to create a solution that would scale whether we hosted one event a month or many. So that was basically answering the question, how can we ensure that this integration can handle new event names, new event codes, new event quantities for registrations and attendance as we added those to Eventbrite? The second piece that we needed to identify was how we would filter out child registrations. So as a part of the Eventbrite registration process, children are registered as attendees. And we needed to exclude those because we did not want to enter those as accounts into eTapestry. We also wanted to manage journal contact entry for both registrations and attendance. We knew that volunteers would be registering for the event, but we also wanted to track when they actually showed up at the event. And that's a check-in module in the Eventbrite platform. Additionally, when we went to Mailchimp, we knew that we needed to segment the audience by both event and status. So if someone registered for an event in Seattle, Washington, we needed the ability to segment that by both the event location and the registration status. That way we could communicate with audience using Mailchimp campaigns based on their registration to that event. Similarly, we also needed to tag Mailchimp subscribers when they attended, and that would help us manage follow-up communications after the event was over. So all of these Mailchimp segmentations required on-the-fly segmentation because all of these events may be happening simultaneously in various locations around the country, and we didn't want the integration to be limited to just one event. So let's talk through how we solved some of these challenges. So there are two registration workflows, or two workflows coming out of Eventbrite that we put together. One was for attendee registrations, and the other was for attendee check-in. Now we're going to zoom in onto each one of these steps piece by piece. There were obviously two Zaps that we needed to run. Again, one for registrations and one for attendances. And that was primarily because Eventbrite has two different actions or two different components that will happen when a volunteer engages with the event. Number one is that an event will have a registration. The person will actually sign up to attend that event. And the second is when you actually check them into that event. So that prompted us to create two Zaps with two Eventbrite triggers. One for the new attendee registered and the other for the new attendee check-in. The second step in each Zap was to filter out children. We did not want to add children to the eTapestry database, so we created a Zapier filter where the ticket class name does not contain child. Now all of the other ticket class names include adult, and that allowed us to segment out or stop the integration at any time when a child registration was added to Eventbrite. Once we'd made it through the filter, we needed to find or create a constituent in eTapestry. Eventbrite provided us a large data set to conduct a duplicate check in eTapestry. That duplicate check would be the account name and email, the account name and address, or the account name and phone number. And eTapestry will make that match if it finds a match in the database. The Zapier integration would then, if it could not find a match, create a new constituent, which would aid us in the next steps of the Zap. And that next step was to create a journal contact. Whether the volunteer was registering for the event or attending the event, we wanted to create a journal contact for that engagement. We'd flag custom fields for the event status, the event name, the event ticket type, and the event group name, and we'd even flag a how did you hear about this event custom field from Eventbrite into a user-defined field in eTapestry. Following the creation of the journal contact in eTapestry, we moved on to add or update a Mailchimp subscriber. We included the first name and last name of that subscriber, the address and the phone number to round out the subscriber profile in Mailchimp. Now, once we had the subscriber in Mailchimp, we also wanted to tag them with their registration or attendance status, using the custom coding and values coming from Eventbrite for the event location and the event status, registered or attended. We chose to use Mailchimp tags because we felt like that would give us the most flexibility to segment our audience in Mailchimp. But in order to create tags on a Mailchimp subscriber, we needed to identify the event number and the event status. So we used two formatting steps to pull that out. We pulled out the event code from Eventbrite. In this case, in this screenshot here, you can see that code is 456. Then we plugged that into a custom API call to Mailchimp to get the Mailchimp tag ID for that code. We ended up with a formatting of EV, which was event, the number, and then registered. We'd go into Mailchimp, find that tag ID, and then append it to the Mailchimp subscriber so that we could segment those subscribers based on their status, the event that they participated in, and we could send campaigns based on those values. So in summary, if we take a look at the integration, let's just take a look at the registration. Obviously there's two flows, but they're very similar because they follow a similar path. When a new attendee would register in Eventbrite, this automation would automatically start, and this would happen for each individual that registered for the event. We'd filter on whether or not that ticket contained child. If it did not contain child, we'd continue. We'd find or create a constituent in eTapestry, create a journal contact for that registration event, add or update the Mailchimp subscriber, get a bunch of data that we needed to create a tag, and then append that tag to the Mailchimp subscriber for the event and registration status. Once this integration was turned on in real time, it would continuously, and it does today as well, continuously pick up new registrations, put them in eTapestry, and organize and segment them in Mailchimp. So what happened as a result of this integration? Well, for starters, it did create some maintenance. Integrations require some attention, and we wanted to make sure that this integration runs well, so there are some things that we have to do. One of the things that we've noticed is that some people register multiple people, so for instance, a group of people or a family, under the same name and same email address, or the same or different names and the same email address. Makes sense. If I was registering for other members in my family, you might grab their names at the date of the event, but I just want to give them all registrations against my name so I can get 4 or something to that extent. But this does cause some issues with data quality in eTapestry. And so we have to monitor duplicate registrations ongoing. We've also implemented some other solutions to try and inform registrants that at the date of registration that we need them to enter accurate information about those who will participate in the event. And some of those measures have been successful in helping to streamline and clean up the data going into eTapestry. We also have to maintain the tags in Mailchimp. That means creating new tags for each event. Now we could have done this automated, but we decided to make it a manual step so we could have some control over the tag formatting and creation in Mailchimp. This integration also requires some ongoing monitoring. Because Generosity Feeds has such high volume, there are some instances where tasks will time out, and those require replay to push them through. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Now, all integrations require some maintenance and some continuous improvement, and we expect that all integrations, similarly with Generosity Feeds, require some tightening over time. The integration outlined today, while it addresses the use case, is also something that we've improved upon over time. If you actually look in Generosity Feed Zapier account, you'll notice that we're on version 2, technically a version 3, but listed as a version 2 of the integration. Now with that, Generosity Feeds has also experienced some significant improvements in time savings and the quantity of data that it's processed with integration. So from Generosity Feeds, as we've been working with them, they've estimated that there's been about 20 hours saved per week, and the majority of that's related to imports between Eventbrite and eTapestry and eTapestry and Mailchimp. In 2019, they logged over 21,000 journal contacts using this integration, and all of that's led to more consistent coding in eTapestry and auto-segmentation of subscribers in Mailchimp. If we think back to the goals that we had at the beginning of the project and the discovery that we conducted, we wanted a scalable solution that would back up event operations. And to a large extent, these integrations have solved that. Now, Stephanie Klabundi at Generosity Feeds was kind enough to give us a brief testimonial of her experience with the integration between Eventbrite and eTapestry. And I'll read off just some notes here. Stephanie says, prior to working with Sidekick Solutions, we were spending approximately 20 hours a week pulling volunteer lists from Eventbrite and manually entering and categorizing the data into eTapestry. On top of that, we were adding each list into Mailchimp for communication purposes. Our admin team was strapped, managing data records and keeping each platform in sync. In working with the team at Sidekick, we were able to pull volunteers directly from Eventbrite into eTapestry and Mailchimp, freeing up team time to focus on growing our volunteer base and providing concise communication. As with any technology, there are moments when glitches occur. When our events come online, people register en masse. This sometimes has overloaded the wrapper. I've been impressed with how quickly Sidekick Solutions has given attention to correcting this and getting us back online. It's been a pleasure to work with Sidekick Solutions. They've taken our needs and found efficient and timely solutions to keep us moving forward and focused on mission and people. I want to thank Stephanie for those kind words and honestly a dose of realism, as there have been moments where the volume of data that they've processed with the integration has required us to develop some ad hoc scaling to address that volume. So again, appreciate the kind words and also the dose of realism. So in closing, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the presentation and our approach to eTapestry, be happy to find some time to connect with you. Love to learn more about your organization, any challenges or applications that you're using to support your daily processes, and maybe how we could set up some integrations to help. You're welcome to send us an email at info@sidekicksolutionsllc.com. And I want to emphasize that our door is always open. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.